The city of Lagos never slept. Even as rain drummed on the tin roofs, the streets shimmered with reflections of neon lights and car headlights. Inside a quiet apartment tucked in one of the busy estates, Chioma sat by the window, staring at the rainy streets. Her fingers traced the rim of a cup she wasn't drinking from. Her beauty was undeniable. Smooth skin, perfectly kept hair, a posture that spoke of elegance, but her eyes held a deep sadness. Years had passed since she married Obinna, a man everyone described as perfect, handsome, educated, and charming. Their wedding had been grand, with music, laughter, and joy. But beneath the smiles, Chioma carried a silent pain. She had no child. She had prayed. She had fasted. She had pleaded with God for years. Yet nothing changed. At first, Obinna comforted her, offering gentle words and holding her close. But as months became years, patience wore thin. Deborah, his younger sister, barely in her 20s, began mocking Chioma openly. Mama Ebube, her mother-in-law, joined in, often laughing at her supposed misfortune. Even Obinna stopped defending her. Sometimes he laughed along, a hollow laugh that cut deeper than any insult. Deborah had a habit of barging into Chioma's room, grabbing her clothes, shoes, even small personal items, as if they belonged to her. When Chioma protested, Deborah's friends would laugh. "No child, no say," Deborah would say. "You will never understand, barren woman." Chioma felt a mix of anger and shame, but she refused to show weakness. One night, sitting alone in the dim glow of a candle, Chioma made a decision. She would no longer be a victim. She would turn this humiliation into power. Her ancestors had guided her people for generations. Perhaps they could guide her too. She knelt, whispered prayers into the night, and made a vow. "Show me the way. Give me strength. Give me wisdom to make them fear what they cannot understand." The next day, Chioma began her first act. She cooked meals heavily salted, far more than anyone could eat. Obinna and Mama Ebube complained, but she laughed, a soft, eerie laugh that made them uneasy. "The spirits told me to do this," she said. No one understood the source of her sudden boldness. Days passed. Chioma's madness became her tool. She began revealing secrets. Deborah's secret trips to meet her sugar daddy in hotels. The money Deborah had stolen from her mother. Even Obinna's private meetings with another woman. Mama Ebube's hidden sales of family land. Chioma spoke these truths casually, yet the power in her words silenced every room. Tension in the house reached a breaking point. Mama Ebube and Obinna decided to call a pastor, hoping to restore peace and sanity. When the man of God arrived, Chioma's act reached its peak. Her hair fell loosely around her face, her breathing was heavy, and her eyes darted like a wild animal's. She staggered, knelt, fell, and shouted, "Mama Ebube, tell them the truth. The land, the houses, the secrets you keep." She turned to Obinna, pointing at him. "And you planning another woman? I know everything." The pastor froze, confused and silent. No prayer, no words could mask his shock at the clarity of her revelations. Eventually, he left, unable to comprehend her act. Word spread quickly. Neighbors whispered. Even strangers came to Chioma seeking advice. People began calling her a seer. Deborah, tired of being exposed repeatedly, finally left the house, humiliated and fearful. Chioma walked through Lagos with her head high. She had become untouchable. But she knew she had to maintain her act carefully. Her next test would come with a plan for her deliverance, orchestrated by her husband and mother-in-law. She smiled inwardly, knowing the day would come for her to end the act perfectly, appearing healed and miraculous. Chioma woke the next morning to the sound of Lagos streets alive with traffic, vendors shouting, and car horns blending with the drizzle outside. She moved gracefully around the apartment, her every action calm, deliberate. Her appearance was immaculate, hair perfectly done, outfit stylish yet understated. But behind her serene look, her mind was sharp, planning her next moves. She prepared breakfast, deliberately adding much pepper and oversalting the porridge again. Deborah burst into the kitchen with her friends, as usual. "Morning, barren woman. Still dreaming about children that will never come," she mocked. Her friends snickered. Chioma smiled softly, placing the pot on the stove with a deliberate grace. "Perhaps I am barren in one way," she said, "but powerful in another." Her words carried a calm threat that made Deborah pause. Mama Ebube entered the kitchen, wagging her finger. "Chioma, you will regret this behavior," she said sharply. Chioma turned to her mother-in-law, tilting her head. "Do not worry, Mama Ebube. The spirits guide me. You might not understand, but one day you will see." The household fell into an uneasy silence. Even Obinna, who had previously laughed along with Deborah, looked slightly unsettled. As days passed, Chioma's reputation began to grow beyond the house. Neighbors whispered about the young woman who seemed mad, yet spoke truths no one else dared. People came seeking her advice, presenting problems and secrets. Chioma listened carefully, offering guidance that seemed mystical. Her act was perfect. No one suspected her intelligence behind the madness. Deborah, growing more reckless, continued sneaking out to meet her secret lover. Chioma, observing quietly, gathered details. One evening, she left a note where Deborah could not miss it. "People will know. Secrets always come out, but he will not marry you." Deborah shivered but tried to act indifferent when she saw the note. Chioma's influence over the house became undeniable. Obinna, caught in his own indecision, tried to maintain control, but he could not ignore her growing power. Mama Ebube, realizing the risk of exposure, became careful with every word, avoiding the sharp tongue that once mocked Chioma. One afternoon, a distant relative of Deborah's arrived unannounced, carrying gifts and smiling politely. They attempted to sway Deborah against Chioma, suggesting that she should return and reclaim her influence. Chioma watched from a distance, her smile calm. That evening, she confronted Deborah privately. "You think I am weak," Chioma said softly, almost in a whisper. "But you forget the spirits guide me. Everyone will see the truth." Deborah's face paled. For the first time, she saw fear in Chioma's eyes. Meanwhile, Obinna struggled with the growing tension. He had once thought himself in control of the household, but Chioma's wisdom, disguised as madness, made him unsure. He began avoiding confrontations, noticing the respect and fear his wife commanded without a single harsh word. Then came the day the church deliverance was planned. Mama Ebube and Obinna were determined. The pastor was well-known, strict, and confident. Chioma had been anticipating this. She had rehearsed every movement, every breath, every gesture. It was her moment to cement her influence forever. The church overflowed with people. Curiosity had drawn even strangers from surrounding neighborhoods. Chioma was brought forward, her hair loose, her clothing flowing. She staggered, glanced wildly, and fell to the floor, gasping as if caught in invisible chains. The pastor began prayers, raising his hands, commanding the evil spirits to leave. Chioma allowed herself to appear weak, exhausted, and desperate. Then, at the perfect moment, she rose slowly, her eyes wide with apparent revelation. "Where am I?" she asked, voice trembling yet clear. Gasps filled the church. The pastor smiled, claiming the spirits had left her. Obinna rushed forward, tears in his eyes. My wife is back." The congregation erupted in applause and cheers. At home, Chioma returned to her routine, but now with an air of unshakable authority. She cooked, cleaned, and managed the household, but her subtle control over Obinna, Deborah, and Mama Ebube was now absolute. The family, realizing the risk of her returning to her normal self, treated her with caution and respect. Months later, the ultimate blessing came. Chioma became pregnant. The news spread quickly, and neighbors whispered about the mysterious turn of events. 9 months later, she delivered twin boys. The house overflowed with joy. Even Deborah and Mama Ebube, once cruel, could not deny the power and grace of the woman they had mocked. Chioma had transformed humiliation into power, sorrow into respect, and infertility into divine blessing. Her story became legend in Lagos, a tale whispered among neighbors. The beautiful woman who seemed mad, but whose wisdom could not be denied. Morals. Strength and patience turned suffering into triumph. Chioma's careful planning and resilience led to her ultimate victory. Respect is earned, cruelty is punished. Mockery may seem harmless, but truth eventually surfaces. Faith, both spiritual and personal, guides through adversity. Chioma's connection to her ancestors and her strategic mind led her to success. True power often hides in disguise. Appearing weak or mad can conceal great wisdom and strategy. If you enjoyed this story, subscribe, and share. Comment below what you would have done in Chioma's place. Turn on notifications for more suspenseful, jaw-dropping African folktales.